What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the vlog. My name is Filip Latocha, and today we're going to be talking about my 2021 contingent race plans. This plan is assuming that everything is going to proceed in a more optimistic manner than it has been in 2020. So, yeah, this is kind of the first draft of it, and of course, if things don't go the way they're supposed to, I do have a backup plan that we'll also discuss. But before we get into it, let's make sure we like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. 2021, of course. I have a lot of cool stuff coming up and a lot of cool plans coming up as well that I would like to discuss with everybody and have you guys along for the journey. And yeah, definitely comment down below what your biggest 2021 racing, running, training plans are going to be and how you plan on accomplishing them. So without further ado, let me hit you with this crazy draft I've got coming up for this 2021 season. So we'll just start real quick, real hard with this. So this plan is divided into 3 separate phases. So we're already in phase 1, and in phase 1, 3 major things are happening as far as I'm concerned with this list. First and foremost, this one already kind of started last year, a little bit post-Halloween, before Thanksgiving, is basically just trying to train for a sub 16-minute 5K. So, I haven't been necessarily doing 5K specific training, but I have been doing a lot of tempo work involved with more 10K to half marathon speeds, and now all we got to do is maybe not cut those distances down necessarily, but add a little bit more mileage and maybe start including some 2-a-days that are more 5K specific. And of course, a lot more strength training involving weights is also going to be extremely important, because I do have the leg stamina, the leg endurance, but what I need now is the strength to obviously, hit the ground harder, push off the ground harder, and just basically trying to get some extra speed on that front is going to be probably the difference between running, 1750 and maybe like 1610 or whatever it may be. Of course, sub 16 is quite optimistic, considering that I think my PR is about somewhere in like the 18 minutes, maybe it's like 1750. I gotta double check it. I think on Strava, I don't remember what it exactly says, but it was PR that I accomplished on my last race of 2019, basically the last race I ever did up to this point, and it was during a 10K, and the 5K split was the 5K PR. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much improvement I have made during the 2019 race season, and how much fitness I may have kind of lost in the process, but would like to get back in order to smash the sub 16. As far as I'm concerned, it's totally possible. It's just going to take a lot of mental energy to kind of, hone in on it when the time is right and whatnot, and, so on and so forth. So that's kind of the big goal. If I can run the sub 16, I'm going to feel good pretty much leading into phase 2 and 3. Of course, then also in phase 1, this is going to be an interesting one. I'm signed up for the Rock and Roll Nashville Half Marathon. And the reason that's happened is because the Chicago Rock and Roll Half Marathon last year basically got deferred because of the COOF, of course, and the problem with that is that the race is not coming back to Chicago. So they gave us these races and they said, you have to choose one of these races, we're not refunding, you have to choose one of them. And I looked at the entire city list, I'm like, these are all kind of dumb. I saw that there was a lot of East Coast cities on the list. I know that there was one West Coast race. It wasn't Seattle, it wasn't San Francisco, so I wasn't jonesing it at all. And I just looked at Nashville and I said, okay, I could fly to Nashville, I could drive there in no time. It doesn't sound like the worst idea to go ahead and do it. So I signed up for it. But the only problem with it is that I later realized that that race day is April 24th, but I have a ski trip, which I do plan on doing a lot of vlogging for on this channel moving forward, is basically a week before the race. So I would probably have to taper, and then while we're in Breckenridge at this time, the week of the 17th to, the 24th, I might end up flying from Colorado to Nashville and just kind of see how that plays out. So that'll be a very interesting race week. Of course, 100% contingent to how the COOF is going to handle things in Tennessee. But anyways, that's kind of the phase 1 plan, is basically prepping for sub 16 5K and then just working on completing and maybe doing a half marathon PR. That's going to be kind of the end of April. And then once we move into May, so while we're training for that half marathon, probably starting now, We're also going to be training for some stuff in Phase 2, but it's going to be towards the end of Phase 1 that this happens, because Phase 2 has 3 very important races that need to happen, which is on September 12th, we've got the Ironman 70.3 Madison, Wisconsin race. On September 26th, I have the Berlin Marathon, and then on October 10th, I have the Chicago Marathon. This is Phase 2. And now, in order to do Phase 2, there's going to be a lot of headwind preparation, starting from at least next month, or even right now for that matter, in basically getting into 70.3 shape as well as marathon shape. So that's nothing new to me. I've done that before. I've just remember distinctly the after effects of racing a 70.3 and then just trying to train again. It takes a while to get back up, to that mental strength and that physical strength, because you really do get beaten up after a 70.3, especially if it's your first race ever. So this is going to be kind of the plan. Again, this comes down to the coof, but hear me out on this one. Based on what I saw last year during 2020, training in elevation for 2+ weeks really made running at sea level, if not just slightly above, a lot of fun. It was very nice to breathe in Chicago after spending 2+ weeks in 7,000+ elevation with a mix of Colorado and Montana and areas like that, including Flagstaff, Arizona. And basically, for some period of time, I would like to spend maybe like a month or 2 in Colorado or somewhere of high elevation where I can train for all 3 sports, swimming, biking, and running, and basically be able to come down to, to race day, whether it be for Ironman Wisconsin, Berlin. Well, I'll have to come down for Berlin because we got to fly at some point, right? But I think maybe for Ironman 70.3 Wisconsin, get that elevation fitness and bring it down for that race. And the way we're going to do that is probably maybe in June or July, maybe even August. Spend that entire summer out west, and maybe I'll take a few friends along with me who just want to go out for a huge vacation, or people who want to train with me or race with me, or just have personal fitness goals, and just basically try to spend some time out in Colorado. It'll be the longest I'll be spending away from my home probably at any given time here in Chicago, but I think there's no better time than now, when offices are closed and people are mostly working from home, than to basically travel. Obviously contingent to whether your employer lets you. In my case, because I work for a company that aviation and travel is the main industry, why wouldn't they let me travel, right? That'd be really bonkers. Again, and then last year I did this before too, and my bosses were very cool with it. My bosses were doing the exact same thing, so it's you can make it happen, I suppose. Talk to your employer if you can do that. Don't say that Phil told me it was a good idea. So yeah, kind of that's the point. Spend 2 months at 8,000 to 9,000 feet elevation. Prep in those conditions for Ironman 70.3 Wisconsin. And then once 70.3 Wisconsin is complete, we fly out to, not necessarily Berlin first. I think we're going to fly out to Poland first, so I can hang out with my family out there, taper while I'm out in Poland. Just make that kind of stop out there, and then maybe a week or a few days before Berlin, either fly out or make the 6-hour drive north from where my family lives. And basically, that would be probably the best way to approach that. And then, of course, after Berlin, I would fly back probably right before October even begins, hopefully well before that. And we would slowly start prepping again for Chicago. Maybe all we got to do is run a 20-miler or just a few shorter runs just to, break in and kind of keep the peak fitness that we have leading into Ironman Wisconsin and Berlin. And just basically just transition it over for the Chicago Marathon. And of course, the goal with both of these races is to try to break sub 3. It's been guesstimated last year, December of 2020, that I should be able to break a 245, 250 if everything goes well on my marathon race days. Now, that's a big ask, because that was supposed to be the case in 2019 before I bonked, and I just mentally lost the strength in about mile 22, 23 to keep pushing on the pace that I was looking for. Again, I was a little more naive then, and I remember just going out hard during the beginning of that Chicago Marathon, and it was just kind of bad. But now, I guess we're a little bit wiser. We're about 2020 wiser at this case. So maybe we'll be a little bit smarter about it. Maybe the wisdom and the strength from, just running this entire 2020 season could roll over into this race year, if there is a race year even. And yeah, that's just kind of what we're looking for here, is just that sub 3, maybe that 2:45, of course. And then that's the end of phase 2, is after the Chicago Marathon. Phase 3, once we get some other races involved in there, like maybe a turkey trot or something, if the world starts reopening, that would be pretty sick if that could happen, like a turkey trot, maybe a hot chocolate. No virtual races. I really want to stay away from those because they're just stupid. It's just like buying swag and then just like going on a training run for whatever distance they tell you, and then you put the number up on a scoreboard and everyone's like, yeah, you did it. It's like, it doesn't really matter to me to do that. So I'm going to try to steer away from doing virtual races. So phase 3, ultimately, the biggest goal is going to be Tokyo 2021. And you would say like, oh, well, actually, hold on, let me scratch that. I said that wrong. The ultimate goal for phase 3 is going to be Tokyo 2022. In order to get Tokyo 2022 to happen, we got to begin the training and the prepping during the late autumn, early winter of phase 3. And I did this basically at the end of 2019, and it ended up working out really well by the time 2020 started, because I had that fitness, and then of course with the lockdowns happening, that fitness couldn't, be pushed anywhere. I just had to either decline or I had to do a virtual race, and it was kind of terrible. So assuming that there's like a few races that kind of happen at the end of phase 3, I'll sign up for them just to, have those threshold checks on my list. But more or less, Tokyo 2022 is still on the list. I do have to defer to that date accordingly. I think it happens in the next couple of days from the filming of this particular video. But yeah, that's kind of what we're looking forward to, because the big goal here is to, of course, like I said, when many months ago when this channel first started, Tokyo 2020 was going to be the big vlog kahuna for this channel, because that's what I was ultimately filming when this whole thing started. But, since then we've had a few setbacks, and now here we are where Tokyo 2022 is potentially a thing. And now what we're understanding is that I might be able to do 3 marathon world majors in like the span of less than what looks like 6 months. And I think that's not unheard of, but I have not run more than a marathon per year ever in my life. So to do 3 of them in 6 months is a huge ask, and then trying to get all 3 to be sub 3 is also a very, very large ask for someone like me who's never done this. So again, these are all just very, very contingent plans to the world opening up, the coping to finally stop, and more or less, just everybody relaxing, kind of putting the masks away finally once and for all, and just accepting the fact that it's time to move on. It's time to start racing. It's time to start, living life again, because we can't stay locked down forever. At least that's my hot take on it. You don't have to quote me on this. I'm not a medical professional whatsoever. Anyways, here we go. If none of this happens, what is the contingent plan? Well, first and foremost, it's obviously going to be to continue the growth of this channel. I am still pretty stoked about, being able to have an audience that is willing to listen to shoe reviews, watch some training videos. Even if I'm not like a professional runner yet, these are things that I like to talk about, and I like to continue growing this channel. It is one of the challenges of day-to-day life is, coming up with content during a lockdown that people can enjoy. And of course, shoe reviews have been always great. Just my big concern with shoe reviews is that I don't get like trapped in a shoe prison in my house. I currently have what looks to be about 7 to 8 shoes in my current lineup of shoes, and I know people have 10 times that number available to them. I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I had that many shoes, but 2021 is going to release a lot of cool shoes, and I would like to discuss them, give my thoughts on them, and obviously, just more or less just talk about them. And once that starts happening, I got to start shuffling some of these shoes out and declaring the end of life on some of these before things get quite bad. So shoe reviews are going to continue in tandem with growing this channel. 2, we're probably going to do a lot more miscellaneous stuff that isn't necessarily running affiliated, but is still within the realm of sports. So again, If you do follow me on Instagram, you understand that, like, I'm not just a runner, but I'm also a skier. Winter sports are really cool in my book, and that's why this Breckenridge trip is also kind of a big thing for the channel, is because, yeah, I've been skiing for 10 plus years. I'm not the best skier in the world, but I do like filming stuff while skiing. I like it as a sport. I try to do some tricks here and there without, like, destroying my knees or ankles or blowing out my ACLs. But I do like making that winter skiing content. It's not necessarily on this channel as much. It was on my previous one, but that channel is kind of like inactive right now. But more or less, this is the channel that we're going to try to bring some of that stuff into. So more winter sports stuff will be really great as we move forward. So some traveling stuff, of course, training, traveling, continue with that stuff. And 3, maybe having race effort workouts that we film for the sake of smashing PRs that are unofficial. That's again where the sub 16 5K ultimately comes in. Is that's going to be one of those things where no one's going to be declaring it an official race, but I have to do it for myself. So when the time is right and things do start opening up, you know what it takes to run a sub 16 5K or excel at that particular race. So it's not like doing this particular 5K would be in vain if nothing comes out of it, but you're going to end up teaching yourself in the future that A, you can do it, and B, you know how to train up for it, and you better prepare yourself for when the test arrives. I guess that's probably the best analogy, is like this is studying for a test. And if you're doing the practice tests now, when the actual test hits, you know what to expect, you know what's going to happen, you're going to be ready for it. And that's basically what most elite runners I know kind of proceed with in terms of training, is to simulate the races, or at least like 80 to 90% of that race with that effort, just to know what they can do before they even get to the start line. Because in most cases, the battle is won well before, you know, the actual fighting begins. I think that's a Sun Tzu quote. I think that's how you say his name. Yeah, that's basically kind of just the way we're going to go about it. So if you know what you can do before you get to the start line, you have a better way of assessing your tactics when you get there. So that's kind of the goal with the sub 16 5K. And of course, if we have to get into another race effort for a half marathon or a marathon, or do like another virtual Chicago marathon or something, I'll do it. Just those, though. I don't want to do like a 5K virtual race. That's like so cringe. But more or less, yeah, that's kind of what we're going with here. So that is the current plan right now. So definitely stay tuned for a lot of videos coming up in regards to phase 2. Phase 1 is probably going to have some of this like sub 16 training, including the actual race itself, some ski footage from Breckenridge, maybe the travel vlog into Nashville, and then of course a lot of the shoe reviews, like for the Infinity React 2 when it comes out. I've got one of those pre-ordered. There's another Nike shoe that I saw. I think it's called the Invincible. That's probably really wrong, that's the name, but I'm going to definitely try to review that one as well and see how it fits into my training regimen with the shoes I've got already. And then once we get into phase 2, we're going to do a lot of maybe Colorado or West Mountain-esque elevation area training as we start prepping for the big 3 of, you know, the Ironman, the 2 World Series marathons. And then phase 3 is going to be a lot of winter stuff leading up to Tokyo, and hopefully it actually happens. Yeah, I think that's as far as I can go with this particular video in terms of goals. So again, if you like the plan and you think it's a good plan, or you think it's a lot on my plate, definitely let me know in the comments. Make sure you like the video, and then of course let me know what your 2021 goals for racing and outside of running might ultimately be. But yeah, this is just specifically the running regiment here. But there's a lot of personal goals also involved, but I don't think this channel really cares about my personal goals. I won't get into them as much. But yeah, that's kind of where we're sitting with in terms of this stuff. So thanks again for watching this video. I will talk to you guys real soon, and you'll probably see some more videos coming up with this bombshell of a year that I've got coming up. Thanks again. I'll see you guys real soon.